Hey, everybody. This is Richard, and I am here at GauntletCon 2019 with Yasmin Neitzel from Ulysses Spiel. And I am really just going to be sort of the question reader and moderator today, and Yasmin is going to be the expert. So I will let her introduce herself.
Hey, I'm Yasmin Neitzel from Germany, working for Ulysses Spiele. We are like a threat mainstream publisher of role-playing games. We have the Dark Eye, das Schwarze Auge, which is the biggest role-playing game in Germany. We do the German translations for Dungeons & Dragons, Vampire the Masquerade, Starfinder Pathfinder, and a lot of other stuff. Also, we have an international brand. Ulysses Spiele International is doing Talk Eternity, for example. We have the license for Fading Suns, which will be developed, and a lot of other fun stuff. So I have been doing the marketing for Ulysses Spiele for 2 years with a growing team, and have run in those 24 months 24 successful crowdfundings in both German and English. So this is the reason why you are listening to this strange German girl talk about crowdfunding and marketing stuff. I've also been an editor and developer for games. I worked for the Dark Eye. That's where actually I started out. And I am now doing the development for the translations of the World of Darkness, Starfinder, and Talk Eternity.
Great. Yasmin, can you tell us a little about what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned in just getting started with crowdfunding, and how did you get into it, and what were some of your early experiences and accomplishments, and what did you learn from those?
How did I get into it? Well, I have been a part of the role-playing game community and the indie spaces for a while, so I was aware of crowdfundings and supported a few of them as just a backer. And when our company started to do them, I was not involved at first, but I commented a lot on how they were running them, what I liked, what I disliked, and get involved. They saw that I had knowledge about this thing, and when we stopped distributing role-playing games and went more into the publishing side as a company, or went all in on that, that's the time when we saw that we needed a social media crowdfunding marketing department, and I was the person picked to do that. I had been doing a few crowdfundings before because people weren't there. Like in 2017, the Dark Eye team was flying over to Gen Con, and I was staying back and took over the crowdfunding and ran it pretty successfully. We also won a Silver Annie that year, so I think I was doing pretty well on the social media front as well. And so that was when they saw I was actually good at doing them. And from then it was pretty quickly that I was doing a crowdfunding about every month. And
Wow. So I was just going to ask, what were your lessons learned initially from that initial set of like what were some of the big things you learned in those early crowdfunding?
Well, I think crowdfundings reward engaging with the audience like nothing else. So you have to be there, and the decision to take someone full time to do crowdfundings is something that a big developer should do. And if you are someone from an indie scene who wants to do their crowdfunding alone, you have to be aware that if your crowdfunding is successful, interacting with your crowdfunding will be like your job for the runtime of the crowdfunding, a little before, it'll be a little after, because the faster you interact, the more updates you do, the more you engage with people, generally the more enthusiasm it's there for your projects. That's something I learned. Also, have your stretch goals planned and don't reveal all of them at once. Is so you can adjust as the campaign develops. If you're expecting like 50,000 euros from a crowdfunding, then you're doing 100,000 euros. For example, if every goal is set in stone at the beginning, and you already showed them to the people, there is no way to adjust. You just running through your goals, multiple a day possibly, and then in the end you have to find more goals to put in there, and then you have to calculate for those goals, and that's some really critical math, because if you are overextending yourself and your resources in the stretch goals you want to provide, because you get caught up in the rush of the crowdfunding, then in the end you might not make as much money as you could have if you planned your stretch goals, adjusted them, and stuff like that. So give yourself the room to have your crowdfunding grow the way it needs to, and not force it in a way, or spend all the stuff you have in the first days and then struggle to come up with new stuff while you should be doing other things.
So you talked a little bit about stretch goals, and I wanna come back kind of to that. Could you kind of, I know there have been a lot of kind of evolving wisdom about stretch goals, especially in the RPG Kickstarter community, where it used to be a tendency to like really overload. Every few $1,000s, you wanted to have a new stretch goal and get a new person in doing something, and then struggled a lot to fulfill those stretch goals. What do you think is a good pace for stretch goals to come out?
Ideally, you reach one a day, I think. So you always have something to update people about. Everyone is excited. You get a new, so like if daily updates, I think, is a good pace, unless something extraordinary happens or there's a really boring day. But so people always get something new, and it always feels like a success if a stretch goal is reached. Ideally, you might have a few more to reach in the first 48 and last 48 hours, because there's more engagement. People are more interested in them. And I think you should structure your stretch goals in a way that work. You can, if you can do minimal crowdfunding, and it can be super okay to not have many stretch goals and just say, hey, I'm crowdfunding this product, and these are the things that are there. If they are reached, that's great. We are just getting more of the product out there. That's cool. But you will not get more, because I, as the indie developer doing this, can't produce more. And I figured people will accept that. If you communicate clearly who you are and how your campaign is structured, then people will expect it within the structure. But if you're giving them a stretch goal every day, and then once you reach a certain threshold, and then there's nothing, then people, especially if this is a week out or something from the end, then people will get disappointed, because you trained them to expect a certain kind of stretch goals. Also, if you are deciding that doing crowdfunding is part of your model of distribution of the strategy of a company, then you should think about your company's model of stretch goals, and not only the model of stretch goals for this one crowdfunding, because you will training your audience and ideally retaining your audience from crowdfunding to crowdfunding. So you are training them to expect a certain thing by how you are doing your crowdfunding. So planning ahead is important. Also, stretch goals, I think you should. It's a dramaturgy. You're telling a story with your stretch goals. You're creating like the narrative of your crowdfunding by how the stretch goals are revealed. What people should be excited for, what the next thing will be that they are seeing. Like if you you have some like goodies for your crowdfunding, like you have like a bookmark or a desktop wallpaper, or small stuff like posters. If you just do a big block of posters in the beginning, the first 48 hours are posters, some people will be, what is this? Why am I supporting something to get paper as throwaway? While if you stretch those out, they can fill spaces. People are excited to have new goodies while you are also doing, say, more pages for your book, or new illustrations, or other bonuses that are more concrete and more focused on the game or your product in between them. So pace your stretch goals in a way that everyone can get something, and ideally always have more than one visible, and have something that's a goal visible. Like if you are about to reveal your next 3 stretch goals, one of them, we are doing a second book in this crowdfunding. You're getting a new poster, and the pages will have vignettes in the corners. Then we are doing a new book. Obviously, is the goal. The focus of the update you're writing about it, and that's the one people are excited to reach, and the other ones between them are just markers of their success, where they are going. That's pacing, and different kind of stretch goals are important. Also, make it as clear as possible if you have different tiers of supporters, which level of support gets which stretch goal. The easier this is to communicate, the less people are disappointed, and the more people are possibly drawn to a higher level of your of support. And also, I think it's not bad to have new products as stretch goals. Not like new products you get as a gift in this crowdfunding. No, new products you open up and create them, and then people can buy them within the crowdfunding. Kickstarter is not as good with doing this within the campaign as other platforms are, but you can do it on any platform. Yeah, and so if you in developing your crowdfunding, you see there's enough material for more than one product, you might think about unlocking the second product in the process of the crowdfunding to get new people in and to get a second hype. And if you unlock one product, people are coming back to buy it. And if you give them the opportunity to buy more, and people who are then joining crowdfunding are seeing the product, and you can get them new products in the upsale. So if you structure your crowdfunding around unlocking products and maybe unlocking them bit by bit, like we are doing in our crowdfunding, sometimes we do PDF versions for everyone. Everyone who joins gets a PDF version of this stretch goal. Here's new material about this tribe. Here's new material about weapons. Here's new material about whatever. And then those are unlocked. And once you have enough of them unlocked, you know beforehand, then you get then you say, and now they become a printed product. You can buy for $14.99 or $15 or whatever. And if you want to print it, then add this to your funding amount. And so you at first create excitement, you create new content, and then you are getting something for the content while also giving people gifts. And that's and I think most people backing crowdfundings rather have the opportunity to buy new cool stuff than not get it because it's not worth it to write it, because it's just a gift you give in the crowdfunding. Like a lot of PDF bonuses are essentially giveaways and advertisement, but you can turn them, especially if the development cost is high, into products. And that's some gift people. And I would not let people, people shouldn't have chance determine if their plan for stretch goals work out. Like if you are planning with the second product, you put it early, and you structure around it so that people that it will be reached. Like if you have an expected income of your crowdfunding, and your planning was like our funding goal is like 10,000, but I expect this thing can get to 20,000. Then maybe at 15,000 or something, you're putting the second product that helps you to get to the 20. But if you are struggling and you're not reaching it, maybe you're not even reaching the initial goal, you can then decide if you didn't already reveal that this is the point where we are doing the stretch goal, that you are putting the second product out early, getting it into the funding numbers, and you were planning to sell it anyway. And maybe that is what gets you over the threshold. But you need to calculate if it makes sense to bring it out still, or if the interest just isn't there. I'm cutting all the additional products and just doing like small scale stretch goals because that's what the audience is there for. So you give yourself the room to tailor to your audience and tailor to the interest that is there. And yeah, I think that's a good initial thought about stretch goals. You muted.
Sorry about that. We had a comment in the live chat that for small indie projects, is it just best to, and I'm going to flip the comment into a quick question. But is it just best to plain avoid stretch goals for a small indie project, or are there ways to kind of make them manageable for somebody who's working at for whom reaching the stretch goal might be slow?
Of course, you can do stretch goals for an indie project, and that depends on how you're planning the thing. If the stretch goals are strictly additional, you can of course plan whatever you are personally able to do. If you say, "Hey, this thing has like." I can write one-page scenarios for the thing like nobody's business. Then that's something you can do as a stretch goal. If you're saying, "Hey, I have my gaming group is super excited about this thing," so we can record let's play about it. You can make that into a stretch goal. And if you have friends who are excited about it, you can turn that into a stretch goal. And so you have to see what you can provide as stretch goals. It can be whatever you want. It's because it will be perceived as bonus. Or if you have a bare bones version of your game that you can expand on, maybe you set your funding goal lower for the bare bones version and then turn things you want to do anyway into stretch goals. And so the illustrations you are planning to buy anyway, they are stretch goals now, because no matter if you because the audience will see them as a bonus. You are seeing them as okay, now I can do them. I wanted to do them anyway, which is the case with a lot of the stretch goals we are doing. Like it's not like we didn't plan ahead, like we don't plan for success. So I think it's. You shouldn't treat stretch goals strictly as something additional, but as part of the dynamic and the campaign. And you should plan your, unless you're, if you're doing crowdfunding as a marketing campaign or as a way of distribution, then stretch goals are something you should necessarily do because they create excitement, but you should plan for success, and you should have your funding goal, which is now the real fun starts. It's just basically the first step on where you really want to go. Like you're planning. This is the lowest step. This is where we can do the project, where we're not making a loss. That's where you should set your initial funding goal, because you don't want if you don't want to have a successful crowdfunding that ruins you. You want you still want to be able to continue, even if it just reaches the initial goal, just funds. But generally you want to plan for like your shadow goal, where you really want to end up, where all the stuff you're planning to do is reached. And as an indie person, you can just do, hey, I want to fund this project. There are no stretch goals. It's just this. Stretch goals are too much stress. That's something you that's something you can also do. You can also communicate, but you should figure out how to keep excitement about the game anyways. Like you don't have stretch goals, but you're offering a product for for a certain amount of time. So I see every crowdfunding as an event. So you need to give people reasons to attend this event and to to have the feeling they are there, that something is happening, and something is happening for the whole time the crowdfunding is running. Not just it's you can do it as a shop, and then like Kickstarter is just, or whatever is your storefront, and then people buy it and then they're gone, and there's not much of a campaign. But that's not getting everything. It's still a valid thing to do, because the platform itself has built a marketing and is a place where people are searching for RPGs. But you could go to itch or talk with one of the online stores or something if you just want a storefront. But yeah, that's, or do print on demand. But sorry, to sort my thoughts for a second. But yeah, the full potential of a crowdfunding platform comes with an exciting campaign and with a dynamic where people are getting in more people to support this thing. And if you are really excited about your initial product, and if people are really excited about it, then that can be like, we want this to exist. Just come here and help this product to exist. Yeah, that's a valid thing to do, and it can work without very many stretch goals. But you need to then you need like word of mouth and people who are your testimonials to go there, and you need to share their testimonies and engage with your audience in a different way, give previews. Those are things you can do with your updates and still have the feeling of a running campaign and not just a storefront. But stretch goals have developed for a reason, because they are something that is exciting and that gets people into following a campaign and getting other people in, spending more money to unlock those exciting things. And stretch goals should be exciting. They should be exciting for the audience, not necessarily something you personally really, really need. Sometimes if you say, hey, I have graphic assets, I look up some online printer, I can, what posters costs. Great, I can do that. Calculate it into your crowdfunding, and then you can do posters, even if you never would hang one on your wall, other than for nostalgia reasons. It's something you can do. It's something people can be excited about. And yeah, note on stretch goals also, you mentioned getting people in as stretch goals before, like collaborators. That's a fine thing. I've been a collaborator on a few crowdfundings. I've been a stretch goal, and I get in collaborators too. But it's not necessary to get collaborators to have testimonials. You can just ask people for a quote, and usually they are happy to be on. If the campaign looks like it can run, then it can work, then you're usually happy to. And if you like the game, you're usually happy to give a quote, and there is like there's your name, creator of, maybe it's a link so people can also get your game, and there's a quote where you're being seen as an expert and knowledgeable about a game, and yeah, so that's. I never had trouble getting quotes for crowdfundings and testimonials, but of course, getting people into write stretch goals is a great way to activate their communities. I would look, of course, your friends, but also people who bring an audience, who bring a community. Like you are getting, you're depending on where you are in the indie space. You are writing on your free time, and you're not paying yourself the full wages for each word or page or whatever you're paying by, and you generally should pay your contributors in a fair way. So their text often is more expensive than your own indie game, or yeah. So that's something to think about. If is they are you're spending on the text, but you're also spending on the marketing of having their name attached to it. And yeah, think about who you invite in that way if you want to use it to the full extent. But also, of course, people excited for the game are best to get to write for you, because that's that will show in the writing, that will show in how they post about it and how they share your crowdfunding. And yeah, getting the personal brands on it can also help. Like yeah, yeah, whatever the personal brand is, you get them to do something similar or related to that for your crowdfunding, ideally, because if you have an OSR person and they are if they're saying, yeah, I want to play in the indie space and I want to write something very theoretical or something about writing sad things on postcards, cool. But then that's what they are communicating. But generally, getting them to do their thing in your game, like random tables or something like that, then that's where you are getting their audience.
Mhm. All right. I wanted to change directions because I know you got a lot of experience also in marketing and social media.
Yes.
And so I wanted to talk to you about, like, both in just marketing a game or marketing a new game, whether it's crowdfunding or traditional release or doing any sort of event. What are some of the ways that you found most effective to really reach people on social media and across platforms?
Yeah. Well, we are a small community. Even the international role-playing game community is pretty small. So we are in a we are in a small market where people talk to each other. So word of mouth can work really well if you get the right people talking about you. Influencer marketing works really well because people are connected, and the right video to be released can change the conversation for a few days. So getting influencers on board can be helpful if you know them, if you can get them. Also, a small audience with a defined hobby means you can pay to get attention, because there are pay-per-click campaigns to be done, and you are getting a big percentage of our community with by just paying a small amount of money. If you have any kind of budget, like I can pay 40 euros and reach a big swath of the German role-playing community, and that's not a lot of money. Thinking about if I pay myself like 10 euros a day, an hour, and I spend 4 hours going from forum to forum and from page to page and write about it myself. Yeah, that's also investment of my money and time. But if you can also boost a post, the post should be one that leads directly to your project and gives an elevator pitch about it, so people are hooked. Generally, if you're doing it on Facebook, which is where I do most of my pay-per-click campaigns, is you do it within the stream. You don't do it as any of the other options, just within the stream, so it looks like an organic post. Because usually you are doing with an account that's already active in the role-playing space. Like if you're doing with a private account and boosting that, just looks like a post from a role-playing game person. If you're doing it with a company account, if people have followed that, yeah. Generally, having a company account or having active social media accounts is a good way to get attention. You should grow a follower if you want to do if you want to do sales. You need to grow an audience, a followership, customers. So you need to be active in some way somewhere. You can't be completely stealth. You can stay out of some discussions. Of course, you don't have to say something about anything, but you have to say something about your games. You shouldn't be afraid to repeat yourself, because it will come up. You can't just you will be talking about your game a lot. And if you are afraid to annoy people with talking about your games too much, then either don't do it on your private account and create a company account where you can do this with separated from your personal brand, or you should. You might not have the mindset for doing marketing, because it's about talking about the things you want to get out there. But once the word is out there, you should ideally people find your game or you or something you're doing, and then you can foster a community, engage with the people directly. So if they see that you value them answering you, that they value you value their contribution and their criticism, and so you engage with them, you talk with them, you spend time with your fan base and grow them into something. Ideally, give them a space where they can be. A crowdfunding campaign already is the crowdfunding page already is the space where people can be. So they be active in the comments and talk with people there, so they know being at the crowdfunding page where they can conveniently buy your stuff is also where the community is and where they can reach you and where they can interact. If you're done with the crowdfunding, ideally provide them a place where the community can go on. It can be a Discord channel if you are into moderating a Discord channel or have someone who wants to do that. It can be a Facebook group. It can be whatever a form of community media you are comfortable with, and where you think your people gather, or if it happens organically, like for one of our games, they just created a Facebook group, and that's where they were. And so we didn't create our own second Facebook group or something. We just directed the audience there. We gave a shout out to our fans who did create this place, and thus sent a message: we are valuing you for doing this, which is because they are. You should value your fans because they are doing a service to you. They are by providing a place for the community and for the excitement, and you are nothing without the fans and supporters. Because everyone can write a game, but if you want people to play your game and even want to have the privilege to live by doing role-playing games, then your fans are what you live by, and you should treat them as such. It's not like they are not disposable customers, because, as I said, our scene is small. They are your people, and of course, your community management is important. You should have norms. You should know what you are doing with your community, what you want, what you don't want, what is allowed, because we want ideally create a positive space, a safe space for people to enjoy their hobby. And if that place is provided, it can thrive and grow into its own thing.
So I think, hey, Rob, if you're there, could we get the last question from Turtle Hat on the screen so Yasmin can see it? There we go. So it's so once you've been pushing your game for a while and building some hype, how do you know you have enough for a crowdfunder or a Kickstarter to succeed?
That's a good question. Sometimes, well, usually you know when you're you don't know till you're starting if you really have enough, if it's your first thing. But you can calculate if you have followers on your social media account. You can count them and then say, hey, like maybe half of them will pay, or be optimistic, say, with the crowdfunding campaign growing, we have I will have as many backers as I have followers now, or as I have interactions here. And then you can see, is this enough? Like you can calculate how many people you need to back for your game to succeed, to reach your goal. And if you don't have nearly enough people there, you can still start a campaign and hope it gains traction by doing like it's by doing other by doing more advertisement, by getting people on board, by having influencers reach out, stuff like that. Then you are not just right on your own audience, but generally look how many people you have, and try to estimate how many you need for your campaign to be a success. If you have 5 followers, you probably aren't ready as no matter how much you post it. If you have 1,000 followers who are following you specifically for your game content, you're probably very ready to do a smaller campaign. Uh, yeah, that's yeah. You have to estimate. That's I don't think you can be sure with your first crowdfunding how big your conversion rate will be from conversion rate from backers, from people reached to people buying.
What if you're going into your first one? What would you feel like is like a rough estimate or a guideline that you would advise people to feel safe with? If you feel like just in your experience, there's like a, oh, I'm brand new to this, I should count on like 30% of my people following through. Is there a way to kind of estimate that?
Yeah, I don't have the statistics for that exactly. It might be different per platform. It might be different per person, per whatever. And I always worked from the platform of a big publisher, so I can't give you hard numbers here. I like I said, 1,000 followers is a number where you can be safe.
Okay.
But if you're confident to reach 100 people, like 100 people buying, if you can get 100 people to buy your game, then probably there are other people will as well. There might be more, and you can calculate for that. If you don't think you will sell 100 copies, then I'm not sure what you will be accomplishing with the crowdfunding.
Okay.
Because there are smaller games or smaller audience numbers or audiences that grow over a longer time that you can do better with other platforms like itch, where you don't do a printed product or something like that.
And that might allow you to also just get playtest materials out there, still bringing in a little bit of money, and building an audience. Like getting 15 people to play your module or your game or your supplement. I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, let's talk about how to prepare for your first crowdfunding. Like you can it doesn't start when the campaign starts. You are ramping up beforehand. Ideally you have your things planned. You have something written, and you have your whole plan. You just need to follow. I wouldn't stumble along a crowdfunding. I would follow a plan I set up beforehand, and maybe pre-written posts and stuff like that. The more you prepare, the more you have to fall back on when things are burning. And so you start a few months before. Also, if you want to get on influencers in there, if you want to get on a podcast, usually they don't record an interview and then broadcast it within a week. Probably you want to get in touch with them a few months before, so you so the chances are better they get to get you on there. And if you want people playing your game and talking about it, you know how hard it is to get a group together to play a game, especially a new one. So give them the time to do that as well. So you're starting months ahead for your first one, especially, and then you are building like an audience that you're building. You're also building your media campaign during the Kickstarter, because we can tell people, hey, it would be great if you released this. The podcast is in this month. Hey, if you're doing a Let's Play thing, how about within this month? And then they are happy to do it, and then you have that. Also, I would start with doing we was talking about the game and talking about game stuff and generally more on your social media accounts if you're not already doing that, and thus getting people primed for your opinion about games and your design thoughts. Also, you need to decide if what you are crowdfunding. Are you crowdfunding just a game? It's your passion project. You just want this game to exist and get out there, and you don't care what will happen afterwards as long as the game is out there. That's fine, and then you just need to advertise the game, and you don't need much stretch goals. You don't need to. Yeah, while community building still is important, but yeah, you just doing this one project for the game to exist. But you can also use it to become a brand, a crowdfunding. You as a designer or you as a publisher or a game line can start with a crowdfunding, and then you're building a brand and you have to think about what I want. What do I want to present out there? What should my main channels of communication be? What is the name of my Kickstarter or whatever crowdfunding platform you're using account? Because if it's like the people at White Wolf, they are still running their crowdfundings on Rich Thomas's account. It's looks like a private account. It's the White Wolf account. But if you put the thought in the at the beginning, you name it like Turtlehead Productions. You name your game. It's your account is called Turtlehead, the same as everywhere on social media. Then already your brand is a little bit stronger for that and a little bit easier to find, and people will remember will remember the person who made the game or the publisher who made the game for the next crowdfunding when you can reach out to them again using Kickstarter as one tool of communication.
All right. We're at just a few minutes before we go. Are there any other questions from the audience? Let's give people a second for that. All right. I think that is going to be it. We have another panel that we're coming up on that we're pulling Yasmin in for again. But this time, just for people who are watching this panel, Yasmin, where can people find you on social media?
I'm on Twitter at @theworstrpg. And there I'm doing mostly my private things. I'm also on Facebook as Yasmin Neitzel, and and most of my games and gaming stuff you can find at Ulysses Spiele, which is our company everywhere on every social media platform. It's Ulysses Spiele, and there you can see my game stuff.
Fantastic. So I don't get to see you nearly often enough. I think maybe once a year in a game or at the convention. And it's always a pleasure to get to talk to you. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.